Hello. The professional resource that I have been assigned is Stages of Psychological Development by Erikson. To give you a brief overview of who Erikson was, he was born June 15, 1902 and died May 12, 1994. He was Danish American and he was a psychoanalyst and a psychologist. He was a student of Freud and believed a lot of the things that Freud did. The height of his career was 1930s through the 1950s, and he's most well known for his stages of psychosocial development. Erikson said there were 7 stages of psychological development, starting at infancy and going all the way until maturity. They were trust versus mistrust, autonomy versus shame and doubt, initiative versus guilt, industry versus inferiority, identity versus role confusion, intimacy versus isolation, and generativity versus stagnation. We're going to go more in depth on each of these, and then we're going to focus on the ones that are most connected to school age students and how the role of the teacher can help those development of those behaviors. The first stage is the stage that is trust versus mistrust. This begins from birth to around 18 months of age, and during this stage, an infant is uncertain. They're trying to figure out where they live. They're looking to their caregivers for stability and consistency. This is where they learn to trust or mistrust. So if a baby starts crying, they're wondering, is somebody going to come and help me? So depending on the caregiver, this can lead to them feeling confident, comfortable, and safe, or also have some mistrust if they're not getting their needs met. The second stage is autonomy versus shame and doubt, and this occurs between 18 months and 3 years old, and this is when a child starts to do things on their own to gain some independence, such as learning how to walk, learning how to talk, dressing themselves, doing things on their own. So parents play a big role in this. Do they have the patience to allow the child to do things on their own? Are they jumping in and doing it for them? This fosters that in children later on through on how much confidence and independence they have. The third stage is initiative versus guilt, and this is when children start to go to preschool. They start to assert themselves, they start playing with others, interacting with others, make believe, creating their own games, learning their role in a group. Are they leading? Are they following? Also how they, the reaction they get from their peers and their adults is playing a role. Do they have confidence? Do they feel embarrassed? Are they feeling bad about the choices that they've made, or are they feeling encouraged to keep interacting and creating and playing? The fourth stage is industry versus inferiority, and it occurs during childhood between the ages of 5 and 12, so that's going to be our elementary age students. This is where their child's peer group is going to become very important and a huge source of their self-esteem. So their peers either can make them feel really great about themselves, or they can have a negative effect, as we've seen with teasing, bullying, things like that. It's really important for us to instill positive reinforcement in the things that they do, and also encourage them to interact with their peers in a positive way. So not only are they developing their reading, their writing, their math skills, but this is a huge time in their development of their behaviors and personality and how they interact with peers as well. So we're going to talk about that more, but it is important for the teacher to know that students are still developing not only their academics, but in these stages of development as well. The fifth stage is identity versus role confusion. And this is going to happen in our upper grades of the middle and high school students. During this, they're adolescents and they're trying to figure out their role in society and where they fit in. So this is where they start to feel insecure about themselves and try to find their identity, their values, their beliefs, their goals. This is when role models are very important. They look to TV, music, and people in their lives, celebrities, family members, teachers, to help guide them to the person that they want to be when they grow up. And it's that area where we're not quite adults, but we're done being with childlike as well. So it's that stage of life that our middle and high schoolers will be going through. The sixth stage is intimacy versus isolation. And this is going to be once students are out of high school and they're in adulthood, in college, and throughout their work life. This is centering around intimacy, loving relationships with other people. So this is going to be happening in our adult lives. The seventh stage is generativity versus stagnation. This is going to take place in your middle adulthood, ages 40 to 65. And basically, this is the time where you are giving back to society. You're making your mark. What have you done throughout your life that you can be proud of, such as raising your children, having a career, giving back to your community? So this is coming towards your later part of life. And lastly, the eighth and final stage is ego, integrity versus despair. This is going to happen around 65 and end at the end of life. It's when we contemplate our accomplishments and develop integrity if we see ourselves as leading a successful life. So this comes after you've raised your children, after you've had your career, and you're reflecting on your life as a whole. Overall, what kind of person do you think you were? Did you do something that you're proud to leave a legacy behind, or do you have regret and despair? And this is the final stage. Now I'd like to talk about how the theory that I was assigned has a role in education. So specifically, through my research, I found that stages 3 through 5 are generally the stages of development for school-age children. Although there may be some developmental delays, just as with anything else, these may vary. But overall, when you're an educator, you will notice that children are in these stages of development. So stage 3 is the initiative versus guilt, and that's going to be around preschool when they start regularly playing with other children. They're learning, they're making up games, doing activities. Some of them are going to emerge as leaders. And it's really important that adults are encouraging that. You don't want to shame them for the choices that they're making. If they come up with an idea or a game, you don't want to laugh that off. You want to encourage that and foster that. Stage 4, industry versus inferiority. That's approximately when children are in kindergarten. So when, as we talked about before, they're learning how to read, they're learning how to add and count in their alphabet. They're also learning that interaction with their peers and creating a friend group and socialization. Stage 5 is identity versus role confusion, and this is going to be for our older students that are in our middle and high school, trying to figure out who they are and where they fit into everything, what kind of person and adult they want to be. So what does that mean for a teacher? What is the teacher's job in all of this? Well, first you need to allow students to interact and role play in the younger grades. So that's vital to their development. Having that center time, that recess time, the time where they are interacting and doing things with their peers, learning through play, is really important during this stage. Giving students the choice to make decisions and choose what they want to do is also important. So providing them with options, you can do this, or what color would you like to use? How would you like to do this? And giving them the options to make choices on their own to help them develop and grow. Encourage those ideas and child-directed activities. So don't ridicule or embarrass for making those choices. Be positive in the way that you're doing it. Now, of course, if they're making a negative choice, we can redirect them, we can correct them, but we always want to do it in a positive way that's encouraging them to figure out the right choice on their own. As we move up into the upper elementary grades, students need to learn hard work and earn praise for their achievements. So this is when maybe you want them to do a collaborative project and each person is in charge of some piece of their own, so that they have that self of accomplishment when they've turned in what they were supposed to do, holding the students accountable, but also making sure that the goals are attainable. You don't want to assign a 50-page essay to a fourth grader, and that's an impossible goal that they're not going to meet. So set a goal that you know is attainable for that age and it's age appropriate, that they can do on their own. Make sure you're having the patience to not jump in and do it for them. And as a teacher and parents also should be encouraged to allow the student to do these things on their own to help them grow. Once they enter into high school, it's important that teachers are not only teaching, but they're acting as role models in a society for students. At this age, students are looking to the people around them and in society for role models. Those can be celebrities, but they're also the people that are around them every day, their parents, their teachers, the school staff. So you want to be showing them how to communicate properly, how to have a good work ethic, and be somebody that is easy to communicate with. If the student does have questions or needs to talk to an adult, you want to foster those relationships in those older high school students. So now it's your turn. Think about the grade level that you currently teach or the grade that you are planning on teaching, and whether that's the lower elementary, upper elementary, middle, or high school, and what stage of development the students that you'll be teaching, what development will they be in? There can be more than one. So what are some strategies that you can use as an educator to help foster that development? And how can you be mindful in your lesson plans when you consider the psychological stages of development of your students? For me personally, I teach fourth grade. So when I am doing my lesson plans, I want to think about having certain centers where sometimes they are working independently and working on their own to make accomplishments, but then also having that collaborative and group work where they can be in centers, and also giving them options. So I do have a choice board and activities menu where they can choose certain things to do and how they would like to turn it in. And so they can complete the assignment in multiple ways that they choose. And then also when I do collaborative assignments, I try to have them each pick a role. So somebody maybe, if they're doing, for example, a poster board or an anchor chart, who's going to be the architect to help have the design and the layout, who's our artist that's really good at drawing, who can be our researcher, and have them assign these roles that they can work together, but each have a task that they're responsible for, so that they all feel that they have value and something to contribute. So those are just a few ways that I use in my classroom to try to help their development socially and behaviorally. Here's a few of the resources that I used to do my research, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and thank you very much. These stages are very important in education, and they will be useful to you no matter what grade you teach. So I hope that you found something interesting that you can take back with you into your own classrooms. Thank you.